Please work, please work, please work. Good afternoon. Hello to another Kerfuffle panel discussion. Today we're getting down and dirty. It's going to be a violent fight tonight. On the left hand, we have the direct mail providers. On the right, we have digital comms. In a minute, I'm going to let them punch it out to see who will win. That's not strictly true. We've got a few people here, of course, that have a blend of both digital and direct mail. And what we're really here today to talk about is how those are fitting together. Have we seen a resurgence of direct mail in the light of GDPR and all of the other nuances around that? So welcome to everybody that's joining us today. First and foremost, before we kick off with the question, if it's all right, I'd just like you all to just introduce yourself, explain the company you're from, and a very, very brief explanation of what the company does. So because you're next to me, Gemma, you lucky thing, at least in the boxes, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Gemma Crosby. I work as a marketing manager for Ravensworth. Ravensworth is essentially a design, marketing and print service, especially focused on the property industry. Some of the print products that we've done for quite a few years have been canvassing or property listing materials such as digital brochures, as printed brochures and window cards. We also have digital products, so digital brochures, email signatures, things like that. And we've also introduced a new platform that makes it easier, simpler and quicker to do business with us and audio marketing materials. And we also have other services like a photo editing service called Photo Fixer.
Perfect. Well done. You just got in before the wand of waffle got it. So well done there. I will be waving the wand of waffle if anyone goes. Simon, don't let me down. You can be succinct, can't you? Simon Taylor from the wonderful Yondell.
I'll be this quick. Thank you, Simon. Thank you for letting me be here. My name's Simon Taylor from Yondell. I'm the marketing director there. Yondell is a provider of customer experience services. So we work for several thousand estate agents and many other property related businesses around the UK. Biggest product is fully managed 24/7 live chat. So that essentially enables agents to improve the generation of leads on their own website by up to 50%. In addition, Yondell provides mystery shopping services, market research, customer journey mapping, so services that help businesses understand how to give the very best customer experience and maximize revenue as a consequence.
Perfect. Brilliantly done. Lorianne, lovely to have you with us. Would you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, love to. Thank you. Nice to be here. So, hi there. My name's Lorianne Hamilton. I'm the sales manager for a company called Stamp. We're actually in partnership with Pronto Print. Now, Pronto Print provide lots of printed materials for estate agents. We provide direct mail through an automated online platform. Direct mail is part of what we do. Basically, we have a print and post platform. We operate globally. We have clients around the globe. Yes, we do work with real estate, but we also work with pretty much every single vertical market there is. With us, there's no minimum send. Obviously, there's no maximum send. You can do it all yourself, and you can also integrate with us via API.
Excellent. Good stuff. Thank you for that. So you're the person that's meant to we're here in this little property industry, so you've got to bring us all the innovation that us under our shelves are not paying attention to at the moment. So we'll be coming back to you for all the answers later on. So thank you for that. Heather, can't stay away from you. Hello there. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Heather Staff. I'm one of the co-founders of Spectre. So we have a couple of prospecting tools, one for sales and one for lettings. And basically the upshot is that we help estate agents get their message into the right hands at the right time to help them grow their business.
Perfect again there. And I'm pretty in pink. Jeremy Tapp. Come on, Jeremy. Unmute yourself first. Come on. Come on. Do you know the basics, Jeremy?
Yeah, you'd think I'd know about digital. I have to unmute myself. No. My name's Jeremy. Thank you for inviting us, Simon. I'm from HomeFlow. We build websites for estate agents, large and small, right the way from the multi-hundred branch Goliaths right the way through to 300 independents. And we do marketing for online marketing for estate agents with PPC and SEO, and generally helping out getting their traffic and building their traffic.
Lovely, beautiful. Hi, Katie. How are you?
I'm not bad, Simon. Are you all right?
Very good, very good. Just let us know where you're from.
So I'm Katie Burnley. I'm sales director at 20EA. 20EA is part of the 20CI group of companies, and whilst one of our most well-known products is probably our prospect tool, which allows agents to send letters to properties that are either currently on the market with their competitors or are likely to come to market. Across the business, we work with the majority of our clients across both direct mail and digital channels. So we send out millions of pieces of direct mail every year, but we also work with some of the largest estate agents and retailers and new house builders in the country to send out email campaigns. And our data is available across all of the main social media platforms using digital campaigns. So hopefully I'll be able to add a bit of balance to both sides of the argument.
Good, good. Well, bringing balance to the force is what I'm all about. So look, we have got an elite cadre of people here. So don't, if you let us down now, you've let yourselves down as well. So can I just ask before the first question? Is there? It sounds like, obviously, knowing a number of you in terms of the brands, that actually this is going to be a bit of a false fight, because a lot of you are involved in digital and you have direct mail in your kit bags as well. Is there anybody that is just put your hand up if they are just purely digital? Anyone? Okay, I like it. The evangelists, good. So those two, okay. So you're the ISIS version fighting your holy war, good. Okay, and is there anyone? I don't think you can say that anymore, can you, Gemma? As you said, you've got some digital products in the mix now as well. So,
well, I mean, we're just responding to what agents are asking. So I think you need to have a bit of an array.
Yeah, of course. And what about you, Lauren?
We are focused around mailing, not just direct mail, but any physical mailing.
Well, okay, that's good though. So we've set the camps up. So it's you versus Simon and Jeremy. So that adds a bit of spice to this. That's great. Right, we've got a few people just before we kick off as well. Good afternoon to Peter Lawrence. He's saying hello there. And just to prove that I am the most gender balanced platform in the industry, male female balance, property equality, and just so people know, I'm non-binary. So it's completely. I've just got my grand beard. Anyway, let's kick off. It's an age-old debate, but is digital better than direct mail, or should we have a blend of the two? And if so, how do you see them working together? Gemma, it would be ridiculous of me to go to anyone else other than you on this subject, given Ravensworth history within the industry. Do you want to just kick us off?
Yeah, thank you. I think digital is a really important part of the marketing mix, but it does have its limitations in that it can be easily lost, deleted, scrolled past, ignored. Print, when it's posted, it tends to stay in the home longer, and it demands attention because it needs to be actioned. So you need to move it to another location, you need to scribble on it, you need to pin it up, you need to rip it up, whatever that may be. You can't really get that from digital. And although print can be harder to track, if agents adopt the right systems and processes by linking mailings to CRM systems and data, then you can find that the print mailings will generate the higher returns. And then finally, nobody lives their life purely online or purely offline. It's all a blend of the two. And I think if you've got a blended approach, it works better. You can still track the effectiveness of a print campaign by asking people to go online, whether that be to get a special offer or to find out more information. And of course, people can still pick up the phone. But I think because our customers are straddling the two, that's what we need to do as well.
So do you think, just as an overview there, do you think it's that it's not impossible to track, but the lack of trackability is one of the main people's lack of confidence in investing in print and mail?
I think it's always been frustration of people that's doing marketing, in that, especially when digital became the sort of huge thing it is now, in that with digital you can track so much and there's so much information that you can find out, based on what you're putting out there. So you can find out demographics, you can find out locations, you can find out how long people have spent on pages and what have you. And then you compare that to print, and you don't get that volume of information. But there's this tangible aspect to print that this sort of, you tend to find that especially the younger generations respond a lot more to print because they've grown up in a digital landscape where they're being bombarded constantly. They've got full inboxes, whereas if you send something to their home address to them, it's a bit of a novelty, whereas you've never had that with sort of older generations.
I can completely understand that. We were just talking on a previous webinar not an hour ago on that very subject. Laurie, what about from your point of view?
I agree with Gemma, and I say to all my clients, look, we focus very much on physical mailing, but we also recognise really, in this day and age, it's about omni-channel marketing. It's about trying to touch your customer in as many ways as you can, and obviously it's the same through customer acquisition. I would say, and again, echoing actually what Gemma has said there, the trackability, I think some clients, frankly, don't understand what they need to do, what they need to do to enable them to track mail. But actually, a lot of this is basic stuff. Unique phone number, unique email address, unique URL. And it's a case of turning that physical mail piece, frankly, back into the world of digital, because you can then use that to capture, demographics, whatever it is they're looking to purchase. So I always think of it is not direct mail versus digital at all. Really, it's a combination of those and more. People say cold calling is dead. Well, it's not. People say email's dead. It's not. But the point is there are so many channels. It's how we manage those channels and how we work with them together.
I think I would be much more comfortable talking about the blended approach if the phrase omni-channel didn't sound so ridiculous. But that's probably just me being a little bit. Okay, look, we've heard from the traditionalists here. Jeremy, tell them why they're wrong. Tell these fools that are sending letters out. This paper that you have to cut down a poor tree. You have to cut down a tree, Jeremy.
Well, let's start on that environmental argument. That's a good one, clearly. Okay. But that is the only thing I can really think about that is bad about direct mail.
I will challenge that, Jeremy.
Oh, sorry.
Afterwards.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'd really say against it. I'm not going to pick a fight or an argument with anyone about the need to do balanced marketing. You've got to do a bit of everything, and all of it works if you do it well. There's good direct mail, there's bad direct mail. There's good email, there's bad email. There's good content marketing, there's bad content marketing. It's about how you do it well and about how you track it. I've been really interested by the ingress of digital into the way people are doing print marketing in general, the way people are now segmenting and sending less mail shots and sending them at the right time when your home insurance is coming up and blah, blah, blah. I think that's really quite an interesting sort of thing. But what I would say is I think we've gone through a shock. And it really is a shock because digital's only really hit meaningfully in the last 10 years. I've been working it for 20 years, obviously, but it's only really had a commercially important role in the world in the last 10 years or 15 years. But particularly the last 10 to 5 years was when it really surged in. And that is a very short space of time in business history for people to adapt and change. And I think the problem you've got is you've got a lot of management quite senior and doesn't necessarily understand quite how quickly consumers change behavior. Because for consumers to start using their phone rather than worrying about digital mail, about print products and what have you, and the volume of posts obviously gone down a lot, but for people to start, they go very quickly, whereas businesses take a long time to change their budgets, to get their heads around this, to get systems in place, and you still have an undercompensation for that shock. And then conversely, you've also got a little bit of a back hit, which I think someone was talking about a minute ago, where actually direct mail now has a novelty to it. In some ways, people have yanked all their budgets and pushed, so conversely, you sort of get a bit of an overreaction, and then there's an opportunity to do something to get attention back again.
Well, I've got a letter.
Yeah. I did a little survey. So I went downstairs and asked my wife, scientifically proven, before this call, I said, have we got any direct mail unopened or open that I can wave around on the screen? And we couldn't find any. And I said, have you ever bought anything from direct mail? We just bought our home insurance because it was precisely targeted, arrived at the right time. And that can't be coincidence. Someone's done some data mining around the time we bought our house and what month to sell it in and all the rest of it. But it obviously works. But then,
Jeremy, I suspect Katie sat to the right of you might have something to do with that.
Do you know what? You're 20 CI, right? Right. I said to my wife, "Is this lady going to be on the call later from this firm?" And she probably sold your data to. That's probably that.
Cool.
If you to tell me off, it's fine.
But it works. If you get someone an offer at the right time, it works.
Yeah. What I like there, Jeremy, is you've done a scientific sample of one, and that's exactly the Kerfuffle research we like.
We call it data science, Simon. It's data science.
Good. Heather, you were being quite chippy there as normal. What did you pick up?
Yeah, no, I was hoping somebody would bring up the environmental thing, and hopefully Gemma and Laurie and Katie will back me up there. Pardon?
I said Jeremy's fallen into your trap.
He has. Thanks, Jeremy. No, I do think that. I think one of the things that, to be fair, it's not just Jeremy. I think most of the population think that if you receive something paper, is that bad for the environment? And actually, it isn't bad for the environment. You know, these, and I'm sure Katie and Laurie and Gemma said, we're not chopping down the Amazon rainforest to send a letter. This paper comes from sustainable forests in the UK, which actually have a net benefit because people are planting trees in order to facilitate this. And then paper is the most recycled thing in the UK. So it's 80% recycled. You can tell I Googled this morning just in case this came up. So yeah, the environmental impact, there is actually quite a few studies to say what is worse, an email or a letter. Because emails aren't necessarily bad for, good for the environment either. You've got your servers, you've got everything else, you've got your hardware, which isn't recyclable. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think maybe more needs to be done from the likes of us to educate on the fact that there actually can be a benefit to the environment. Let me demand for paper.
At the risk of showing my hair, let me just check where all this stuff is made and how many. And if we see David Attenborough talking about a swan eating one of my caps, we'll know that that's an area of environmental thing that's gone wrong.
Do you know what? Just whilst I'm on that as well, I'm going to give a shout out to a startup called Ecology, which we've just signed up to. Okay. And they plant trees to offset every company's employees. So you can actually be a carbon positive business. So we've planted 5,400 trees anyway this year as a business. And I recommend you all check it out. Any business can do that.
You know I'm a sucker for that sort of stuff. That's great. That is good.
And also, whilst I've got the mic, Simon, I know you're going to shut me up in a minute, but I wanted to back Gemma up with what she said before about, sorry, one last thing, about being electronically bombarded, because that's another thing I wanted to bring to the table. In 2007, and I understand this is 13 years old, but they looked at, on average, how many digital advertisements were people seeing, and it exceeded 5,000 a day. And if you compare that to what Jeremy has correctly said is the novelty value of receiving something through the post, it has gone full circle, and there is an argument to be said for greater attention being able to be given to something received through the post. So sorry, I'll shut it now.
No, as long as you're delivering value. To be honest, Heather, that's just my way of shutting up people that are going on that aren't saying the right stuff. Well done,
can I just add to that as well, in that the argument about direct mail and how it used to be, especially junk mail. I think there's been a lot of developments in terms of the data. So it's not necessarily blanket communications to uninterested people sitting in their homes that have to deal with mounds and mounds. And we've all seen pictures from like the sort of 90s and early 2000s of letterboxes, full. I think it's more about spending the time to segment exactly who you're targeting with the right messages at the right time. Sorry, I'll hand over to you, Simon.
No, that's a really good point there, because you're absolutely correct, aren't you? What was really starting to happen was you'd see people, especially in London, you'd go away for a week or two, and they could barely open the door, could they, with the amount of stuff that had gone through, leading to the no direct mail or no leaflet drops and all of that sort of stuff there. But actually, as we know, what probably happened there, if I'm guessing, is the actual cost of production, of which there obviously is a cost of production with hard stuff, against then the actual return on investment from the leads they were getting, was falling off the side of the cliff. And you simply have to segment your client database these days if you're going to get the right response, aren't you? So it almost self-corrected itself, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically why 20CI exists as a business, to make sure that our clients are running targeted campaigns rather than just what they used to call spray and pray.
Yeah.
For estate agents, one of the ways that we do that is with our off-market data. So, our data analysts have identified people who are likely into the market in the next 12 months. So alongside sending the right message to people who are, about to renew their home insurance, they are about to come to the end of their mortgage term, or their rental agreement is about to come to an end, we can also kind of give an answer to the blanket mailing campaigns that tend to be sent out across the property sector. And I think that the split between direct mail and email is important, because, as everybody said, both Heather, Gemma, and Lorien, it is a piece of tangible mail. And Royal Mail did some analysis a couple of years ago that said that 50% of people who receive something in the post will engage with it, and on average, a piece of post will be kept in the house for 17 days. Whereas with an email campaign, you get an average open rate of about 20%. Your click-through rate tends to be between 5 and 10%. So if you send 1,000 mailers, you end up with 10 to 15 people on your website. Whereas, obviously with a piece of direct mail, you've got much more brand recognition. It'll hang around the house, and you're likely to actually get more engagement from it.
That's really interesting. And Simon, sorry, you wanted to just jump in?
Oh, yeah. Because, just echoing some of this, but also, clarifying it. Nobody really needs to come on this panel and defend digital. And that's the challenge facing every marketing manager out there. Is they've got a diversified marketing budget where they have to spend X amount on digital channels. They can't ignore those because it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Echoing Katie, email has become what direct mail was 15 years ago, when it was junk mail. So everybody's doing email, everybody's doing online advertising, everybody's doing social content and posting. So the real question, for the panel and the audience is, what's the role of direct mail in the 21st century now? And how do I get the best out of it? Because there's no doubt that several of you have said, direct mail is now a novelty, and that's one of its greatest strengths. When it's carefully targeted and the message is spot on, then it lands on the doorstep. It's an interactive experience. People really enjoy it. And therefore, if you know how to do it well, and it's combined with those other channels in an integrated fashion, some of that Royal Mail analysis, they will tell us that creates an uplift in the overall of your overall response of your campaign. Various figures are banded around 50 to 60%. So it's really about how do you make the best of direct mail, I think.
That's perfect there. Well done. We've probably got now time for one more question. So well done, well done everyone there. Very comprehensive. I'm going to allow it to pass because I think there's some absolutely great questions there. As ever, let's let the punters have their say there as well. So what we've got here is Neil Giller obviously talking about direct mail. If it ain't broke, why fix it? Very good point there. And he goes on to further say as well, obviously both work hand in hand. I think to me that the most effective marketing is always one which works hand in hand with each other. You have the ability these days, don't you, with many systems to say, look, if they haven't opened the email these days, well, there's your flow chart of send a letter to those people and work it in that way. So I think that's an easy point. Peter Lawrence makes the point. Heather, have you been on the phone trying to drum up support? My director is amazing. It's amazing results. Best return of investment from any supplier I have, apart from Kerfuffle, Peter. I will pick you up on that. But well, that's good. That's good to hear. And he goes on to say, probably a little bit more contentiously, the only thing you need on your website is a Facebook pixel. Direct everyone to the right pages and then track and send the right content to the right people, not chucking everything at it, sending the wrong messages to the wrong person. Well, I said it was contentious. Actually, it's just backing up that segmented marketing point, isn't it? Yes. If, of course, they happen to be on Facebook. And we are blessed with royalty. Everyone stand up, bow your cap. Mr. Watkins is in town. Don't blame the medium of marketing. I don't know if he's of the marketing. I don't know if that means we should stop the podcast, but we'll carry on going for the moment. And again, this is getting a bit disgusting now. He says also Spectre's brilliant. So if I get one more of those, Hannah, I'm picking it off. That's disgusting. Right, question to everybody. Right, have we seen a shift to more direct mail since GDPR regulations came into play, with agents playing smart and seeing direct mail as a way to communicate with people that have opted out of their digital communications? Is there anybody here that would like to pick that one up off the bat, or shall I pick on somebody unfairly? Go on then. I'll start with Laurie and Heather, because you're
no, that's fine. It's understandable.
Okay.
Okay, Laurie.
Everybody say ladies first, but that's fine. So, I mean, to be fair, you know, and obviously my background is slightly different. We as a company, as you know, we provide mailed communications, and not just direct mail. We work with some of the largest utility companies in the UK. We work across all vertical markets. Put simply, there's been a huge uplift through GDPR. It's taken a while for people to understand the nuances of what it meant. You know, my customers opted out. What does this mean? I'm trying to acquire a new customer. Can I send them a letter or whatever it is? Put simply, yes, GDPR has certainly helped a lot, but it's taken a while to educate people because there's been a bit of a panic, a bit of a worry, and also some common sense needs to prevail. I mean, I would always say to my clients, look, if your customers opted out, I probably wouldn't send them a letter because they don't want you to communicate with them. You can, but I probably wouldn't do it anyway. And then also, you know, it's things related to data as well, making sure that their data is clean and good, making sure they clean their data. Things like MPS, mail preference service. I appreciate that's not quite the same as GDPR, but considering your data. Now, we as a company, we don't provide data, so I don't have an axe to grind here. But put simply, the data has to be the key. Making sure your data is good. So going back to the specific question, absolutely yes, there certainly has been an uplift since GDPR, and I'd say that's across all vertical markets.
Just on a separate GDPR point, thanks, Laurie, in there. Don't you just love the companies where you choose to unsubscribe and they send you an email to say, "Are you sure?" It's like, yeah, you've really learned the message here. Heather, what did you have to say?
I think Lauren's covered it, to be fair. I think the only thing to add to that is because of GDPR, yes, there's been an uplift in direct mail, but I think people are more aware when they get an email that's unsolicited. And so actually, if you almost risk creating a negative association with your brand if you do that, even if nothing comes of it, and even if it is GDPR compliant, I think it's something you need to be really careful with. Whereas I don't think you get that same reaction from, you know, dear homeowner at an address, particularly given the audience here are estate agents. So what I often say to people is, you know, at the end of the day, if you're a local estate agent and you know your patch, you're going to spot the properties that have got a literal flag in the ground outside their house. So I don't think people respond badly to understanding that an estate agent might have spotted a property rather than a person and contacted them that way.
That's really interesting. And I mean, I think the problem with GDPR is it has created a subset of almost fanatics, aren't they? They will jump on this, and they do know they know the law extremely well, and let's be honest, they're chanting it a lot of the time, aren't they? They are trying to get you to give them something because you may have made a mistake. Now, everything that I learned about GDPR it was not about making a casual mistake or something like that. It was absolutely to try and enforce best practice and encourage that. But it wasn't meant to slap the wrist of somebody who's heard in just a particular area. Has anyone else got anything else to say on this GDPR point? Otherwise, we'll move on. Cool. Okay. Could you share some ideas from any effective campaigns you've run recently for clients? Who'd like to kick off with this one? Just an example of an effective campaign. From the Gemma?
I can't talk specifics, I'm afraid, but we tend to find that the feedback from our clients of effective campaigns are the ones that really stand out and say something different. You see, especially with estate agent marketing and direct mail and things, that you see the same messages quite a lot. You know, so we're trustworthy, we've got great heritage, we'll do free valuations, what have you. And I think if you try and think of in terms of you're speaking to a real person, although it's a faceless person to you, you have to think about what they're going through and the stage that they could be at, especially if going back to your segmentation and your data. If you've got that background, then you can speak in real terms. It doesn't need to be business speak anymore, because that's not how people communicate with each other. It needs to be a bit more real, and you need to present yourself as a real person and a real company. So agents that get the best returns tend to be ones that talk about how they can benefit clients in ways that their competitors can't. So, you know, we sell houses faster than the average agent or whatever it may be, but they're real things that people can hang their hat on. And that's what people are looking for, because they're in the situation, especially right now, I really need to move quickly. So that's what people will be looking for now. Or, you know, I really need to get my property on the market within X number of days because of all these reasons. So you need to highlight those things. And finally, the design element is a huge thing. I think it's very easy to look at what everybody else is doing and think, well, that's the standard of the industry. Whereas if you do something that's completely different, it's going to stand out. It's really going to stand out.
Yeah, first of all, you've got to love those free valuations. I'm a sucker for those free valuations. But yeah, I could be. Isn't it interesting though? In this day and age, we're talking about segmentation, but what you've been talking about there is, you know, the benefits, not features. Just going back to marketing 101, isn't it? Realistically, yeah,
exactly. And it's looking at the situation that everybody's in now. You know, using the pandemic as a sort of, not necessarily a hook, but like an understanding. I understand what you're going through, how difficult things are. You might be looking to downsize or whatever it is. You know, using that to sort of to say, I understand what's going on in our local area, in, you know, the country, in your life.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else got any ideas of examples, campaigns? Heather?
Yeah, I have got a specific one, and I did get permission from them this morning to share it, which they're happy with. But one of the things that we saw, Gemma, you touched on the same subject, which is obviously COVID. But one of our clients, the Hunters marketing team at head office, jumped straight on it and were unbelievable in the marketing materials they prepared for their franchisees. So they came up with this beautifully presented, I think it was like a 7-point plan in terms of how they're going to get their clients moving safely. So it links with what Gemma was saying.
Yeah.
It was well designed, it was well worded, it was relevant to the situation. They responded really quickly. And touching back on a point that was made early on about direct mailing being able to track your return on investment, with tools like Spectre, you can track your return on investment, and a lot of our clients do A/B testing for exactly this. So one type of letter in one branch, another type of letter in another branch. And the results that Hunters got from that campaign was actually very, very good, pretty much across the board as well, because a lot of people stopped prospecting. So yeah.
Great, thank you, Heather. We'll go to Katie first, and then Jeremy, over to you. Katie?
Yeah, so I was going to give you an example of a multi-channel campaign so that we can kind of, you know, go back to the digital, because we love direct mail at 20EA, but we seem to be focusing on that bit. So I thought I'd give Jeremy and Simon a hand. So an example of one of the clients that we work with that is we've been running a really effective multi-channel campaign for. It's not within the estate agency sector, but it's with some of the removal clients that we deal with. So we work with the British Association of Removers and a lot of their members as well. And one of the challenges for, especially with home mover targeting and digital campaigns, is when you're targeting a really small marketplace. So like any estate agent, a removal will have quite a tight area that they want to target. So the volume of email addresses that might be available is relatively small. So what we do is we work with the British Association of Removers for them to actually use the email campaigns to spread the word about why a remover should use the British Association of Removers and one of their members. They do that through the email campaign at the point at which the properties come to the market, and then again 6 weeks after it's been listed. So they've warmed up the home mover and told them why they should be using one of their members when it comes to finding a removal company. And then at the point at which the property goes under offer, that's when the removal company can use our data to send a direct mail piece doing exactly the kind of things that Heather and Gemma have already spoken about, you know, talking about what makes them unique as a removal company, why should they be using them, And yeah, do you know what's even better? I'm a member of the British Association of Removers, and you know that you should be using us because of X, Y, and Z. So that's a really good way of using both channels to actually get your message across and convert at a higher level.
Yeah, digital working hand in glove with direct mail. Obviously, they're reinforcing the message almost on an advertising level, isn't it? They're starting to see the consistency of the message, whether it is in a digital format or again online. That's really useful, Katie. Jeremy, and then I'll come to you, Simon.
Well, I was just going to say, I didn't realize until we got into the discussion, you guys were talking a lot about email and email versus direct mail. I thought when you sort of said it was digital marketing, I was thinking broadly about digital marketing. And what I would just say is SEO or search engine optimization or appearing in the Google results dwarfs email and direct mail and even an outbound calling and what have you as a source. For most agents, it's about 65% of their traffic coming to their websites coming out of Google. So getting your Google land border sorted out and worked out is enormous. The maps results, just pure Google on Google, but also the Google to your website interface is huge. And Heather talking about Hunters. Hunters is not a client of ours, but we have a scanning tool. And what it does is it runs searches for estate agent and letting agent in every single town, suburb, postcode combination in the UK every month. 5,400 locations, 200,000 searches. It records every single estate agent that appears. And the example I wanted to give you of effective campaigns, what we're now able to do is to say, if you've got 20 branches and they're scattered across this county, we can scan all the town and village names in polygons next to your branches and work out in which of those are you ranking at the top of Google. And in which case you might want to pull back on your PPC budget. So you see Hunters appear all over the show doing PPC and SEO. But what becomes apparent is sometimes you find agents who are doing PPC on top of their own SEO. And then they have other towns which are within their target area where they're trying to get customers, where they've got neither an SEO presence nor a PPC presence. So I think you can play digitally very, very intelligently into that by saying, these are the branches that aren't appearing, where we are still trying to trade, let's buy coverage in those. And these are the branches where we're appearing perfectly fine. We've got strong presence. We can save our PPC budget and yank it out of that and reapportion it.
And it's things like that that earned you that pink T-shirt there, Jeremy. You lovely man. Just to point out, it is that's. I'm right in saying that benchmarking is a free tool you do as well.
Well, there's two benchmarkings. You're probably talking about our traffic benchmarking, which lets anybody put their Google. We've got about 880 odd agencies in that. Half of them home for customers, half are not. There's no charge for it. And what it does is it shows you how much traffic you're getting from SEO relative to other estate agency groups of your size. So it's kind of like a health check. How tall are you, what's your blood pressure, how fast you run relative to other competitors in the race. It's a complete no-brainer. The whole of the Countrywide group's in there, the whole of the Commerce group's in there, and hundreds of single branch agencies are in that tool. But the tool I think you're probably talking about is the crawler, and that it's not something you enter; it's something you're in by dint of being in. We find you, we see you in Google. It's basically scanning the UK. But what we can do is, if you email us, we can send you your county, because normally it makes sense for a group of maybe 5 branches or what have you. But if you're a single branch agency in Leicester, then you'll be very worried about 20 little pockets of suburbs in your particular area you're trying to target. So we can send you a report that looks at which agents are ranking in each of the little suburbs and town areas inside of a polygon. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, everybody send a letter to Jeremy asking for that information, just to prove that the blend's
That was
still
direct marketing, Simon. That was a demonstration of direct marketing.
Well, in all honesty, that stuff you do is fantastic, and it's got to be applauded in terms of telling you where your best bang for your buck is. So that's great. And Simon, over to you.
Yeah, I was just going to extend some of what Jeremy said a bit, actually, because we're all unanimously in favour of direct mail here, and invariably the next follow-up and the response to direct mail is going to be in a digital channel, for a customer. So integrating the activity, in a customer journey is absolutely crucial. Enabling somebody to move seamlessly from that direct mail piece into a digital landing space that looks like they're in the right place, echoes what they've already started to see from a messaging perspective, is absolutely crucial. That's what's going to get, the biggest bang for the buck in their campaign, because you're only you're not even halfway through, the stage of the conversion process at that digital point, and you'd expect me to mention Yondell and live chat and services like that, but when people land on your website, converting them, holding their attention at that point is absolutely crucial, and that's where deploying the digital channels seamlessly is paramount.
Excellent. Peter Lawrence as well, just pointing out here that that is 250,000 video views on Lawrence Rand in the last 6 months. It must be the quality of the person they're filming there, Peter. That's what you want to hear, isn't it? Wide words from Jezza, big fan there from Mr. Watkins for you, and of course Peter Lawrence going content is king with the right supplier. All very good points. So whether it's just moving on to the next question now, whether it's the letterbox or the inbox, what tips can any of you give for standing out and getting attention? Because obviously it's so noisy out there, whether we're talking, on whichever format. How do we stand out? How do we get the attention of the punter these days? Anyone want to jump up with that straight away? Laurie?
Okay, so what I'm about to say is probably going to fly in the face of many, many blogs and many, many experts, but I'm not going to ask for forgiveness. I'm just going to say it the way it is.
Brilliant.
So there's a lot of stuff out there that talks about, I don't know, pink envelopes, funny coloured writing, perfume, silver rattly things, shaking, I don't know, all this kind of stuff. Honestly, genuinely, bearing in mind this costs a lot more money to do this kind of stuff, most important thing is your data. So it's the old classic, if you send something to the occupier, the homeowner, yada, yada, straight away when it lands on your doorstep, you look at that and go, well, they're probably trying to sell me something, more than likely you're going to bin it. If you get an envelope through from, I don't know, O2, and you're a Vodafone user, and it says O2 all over it, immediately they're trying to sell you something. What do you do? Unless you're in that right moment of the buying cycle, it goes in the bin, it doesn't get opened. Whereas actually what really works is really simple. A plain white envelope with your name on it and nothing else on it. You're going to look at that and go, I have not got a clue who this is from or what it's about. It's got my name on it. It's got my address on it. I'm going to open it. So that's actually what I would say, honestly. And certainly we've saved a lot of our clients a lot of money to acquire new customers, especially. Obviously, if you're sending... if you're sending to an existing customer, totally different. But if you're trying to acquire a customer and you want to be a bit sneaky, I would actually recommend doing the opposite.
That totally fits with me. I know I would always open that, and it chimes with one of the big industry chainers over from Australia, Josh Keegan, always said if you got through to somebody on voicemail, literally just leave your name, like it's Simon here, please ring us back. They're always, at least you're going to have the conversation, don't you? So what you're saying now, Lauren, is if the raison d'etre is you want them to actually read the piece, that's how you do it, isn't it? Perfect. Cool. Simon, over to you.
Yeah, be yourself. Exactly. That's what you just said, in the voicemail style, do what you would normally do. And Lauren is absolutely right. Targeting and relevance, if you can get those two things right, then your message is going to win, of course. But for either direct mail or digital, look at your brand, ensure that all of your messaging matches the quality of your brand, the visual nature of your brand, the tone of voice of your brand. That works equally for both. Clearly digital offers rich media experience opportunities, and therefore it has its advantages there. But we've talked already about the visual and tactile nature of direct mail, and make it relevant, make it interesting, and it'll be memorable. And thereafter, of course, and it's like a broken record, isn't it? It's integration. Do both if you can. DM plus email plus social, and maybe plus online, and you will get a very, very strong result.
No, I'm feeling a lot of love in the room, Simon. This is great. I was expecting a big scrap, and actually, at a time when the nation is divided, I'm feeling that this is really working. So,
leading the way.
Then a big digital group hug, but I'll try that later. And then who has to go and spoil it? But Peter Lawrence himself, by making out the point that the brown envelopes, which look like HMRC, always works.
That's true. That does work as well. That is true.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about there, but anyway. Anyone else got any sort of ideas, tips? Heather, then we'll come to you, Katie.
Yeah, I agree with Simon. I think that brand point that Simon's made is really important. And I'm a firm believer that your brand seeps out of every single thing that you do, whether it's digital, whether it's direct mail. And I think one of the most criminal things is when, you don't make that message on brand. I often say to our clients, okay, you might send maybe 3 or 4 letters to somebody that's on the market, for example. If you're lucky, they might give one of those letters some attention. So make sure that that letter gets across exactly what you want to get across about who you are, what you offer that's different, and why they should switch to you. And there's little things that I think link to what Simon said about this brand thing. You know, send your letters, make sure your letters go out on letterhead quality paper, because that in an instant, you know, gives an indication as to how sophisticated your business is. If you want somebody's second instruction, make sure you're coming across as a trusted brand who's going to do a better job. Don't put barcodes on it. Make it look like somebody in that branch has spent the time and the effort to write to that property in particular. Use merge fields. Name who they're on the market with, if that's allowed. I'm not 100% sure. Name the price that they're on the market with. You know, make it look like you've made time and effort, not just sent it willy-nilly, generic letter, and anybody could send it, and make it consistent with your brand, like Simon said.
That's really good. I think one thing that I think we all forget, don't we, is a bit like we were talking about earlier, the ability when we first had it, you know, to using EDM systems to see if people had opened the email. And we still, you know, today we still think, oh God, you know, they don't know that we know they're opening it. They know the secrets on the whole, the public now, you know. They know when they're filling in valuation tools that is a driver for leads. They know that when this letter has come that, you know what, somebody hasn't just sat there and done a personal signature and everything else. They're all fine with that. What they're not fine with is if it's done badly, because that's where it shows that you've been sloppy. And if you're being sloppy at that stage of the process, it's quite easy for them to assume you're going to be sloppy at all levels of the business. And that's where I think we've got to really just start being a bit cuter. And you know, if you are going to be clubbed with dynamic content, make sure you're getting it right. Because we've all posted things on Facebook from companies that got these things delightfully wrong to our attention and everything else. You know, they've got Dear Mr. Microsoft merging product things into name tags and like that. So I do understand that. I think that's absolutely right, Heather. Katie, over to you.
My point kind of touches on what Gemma said earlier and some of what Heather's just said as well, in that I think one of the really important things that an agent can do to set themselves apart in any communications that they're sending is to show that they're an expert in what they do in the local area. So, you know, as Heather said, putting the property value and the agent that it's currently on the market with, that's a really important factor. But also peppering that with information about what's actually happening in the marketplace. You know, how many new instructions have there been in the area, what's actually been happening as far as SSTCs are concerned, and even information on how that agent performs. So Gemma said earlier, you know, do they sell properties faster than anybody else in the area? How long does it take them to you know, get from SSTC to completion? And we really encourage our clients to use that level of information that's available in our insight tool to add that to personalizing their letters, because that's the way that you get somebody, once they've opened the letter, to actually engage with it and respond.
Yeah, it's almost well, Jeremy knows web far better, but it's almost like preventing the bounce, isn't it? It's very easy to just open up that there and then I'll stop that and throw it away. It's that data and information that you put in there that determines whether they're going to make it to below the fold on the letter, isn't it? Yeah. Jeremy, you got anything on this?
Well, it just strikes me, we're talking here about push marketing the whole time, and whether it's pushed by direct mail or pushed by email or what have you. And I think the world has really rebalanced to pull marketing, and sort of a few people have said it. Gemma has said it when we were talking about making sure you're speaking to benefits or speaking to understanding who they are. And Laurie has said it when he said write a plain letter rather than a marketing letter in an O2 envelope. And the same goes with emails. If you send out emails, we send out plain text emails. Well, not always. Well, I try and encourage to send out plain text emails because then it's like been written by somebody for somebody. I think we kind of moved beyond marketing of push, and that's to marketing of pull. And I think, you know, and Peter Lawrence saying it's had 250,000 video views. You know, if you're making videos that answer people's real questions, like what do I do when my house sale falls through? What do I do if I'm trying to sell a house during COVID? What do I do? Some of the best marketing I saw was from Aaron Estates talking on their website, a letter from the chairman about how they will sell your house during COVID, but it was genuinely written. It was a genuine letter, really thoughtful, not just, oh, you know, you're gonna have to wear a mask and do this and stand at this distance and blah blah blah. It was genuinely thoughtful about what it's going to mean over the next, and so it cuts through because people, it's human connection, it's human contact. So I just encourage us to think about pull marketing, answering people's questions honestly in a human voice, with less of the marketing and more of the sort of trying to serve them. Just good service.
All good points. Yeah, perfect there. Okay, guys. So moving on to the next question: what are the best tools or ideas of best practices do you have for monitoring the success of campaigns? Has anyone got good ideas and easy ways of obviously monitoring the efficacy? Because ultimately, we're all looking at the ROI, aren't we? Gemma, over to you.
So I personally, as a marketer, rely quite heavily on Google Analytics, and they've got really interesting tools with the bespoke URL builder. So I tend to make sure that every single piece of marketing, especially online, that I do is tracked with a bespoke URL. And then I would back that up with dedicated landing pages for possibly for print and digital. So you could look at what is organic and what is sort of pushed to your website off a click or, you know, or social media post. But I think one of the most important things that you could do is decide on what you want to measure before you run the campaign or before you sort of think about. So you can think about what is it that what information are we trying to get? Are we trying to get people to pick up the phone? In that case, you're measuring how people are going to respond to the campaign, or are you looking to get a listing, and which is how effective that campaign is in terms of your brand and your messaging and things like that. So I think it's important to think about those two different things and how you can track them,
rather than just put it out there for a brand builder. You know, many of the different tools out there like Facebook just do ask you specifically, what are you trying to do, aren't they? Yeah.
And, and that has its own importance, and it definitely has relevance, being able to build that brand and being able to sort of associate yourself with a few key benefits, or this is what I believe in, or this is what our company strives to do. But I think when you're looking at a campaign, you need to think, what are we trying to track, and then go through how are we going to track it, and then you need to think about the elements of your campaign afterwards.
So, Gemma, I'm a bit of a peasant. I pretend to be Mr. PropTech, but it's all a sham. I can understand how a bespoke URL can be very easily embedded in something digital, because you can obviously mask the thing. You couldn't extend that though through to traditional. You know, you couldn't put it on paper, for example, could you?
No, but what you can do is, say you're running print adverts. You can have a different landing page. You could have, depending on what telephone provider you have, you can have different phone numbers for different newspapers and things like that. So there are ways that you can track printed communications. Obviously, what most people tend to do when they get any communication, if they want to investigate it further, is they go online and Google, and they go online and check who that company is. But there are ways to look at specific individual printed communications.
And those trackable phone numbers they are very cost effective these days, aren't they? I think most people think they can add up. But you can get a selection of localized ones, or you know, whatever you need to, can't you? Yeah. And then it really does all feed through into the top of the funnel again, doesn't it? In terms of leads, great.
What about QR codes? Does anybody advocate those?
You were talking at me and Heather were talking on previous, the return of the QR code.
Yeah.
How did you
yeah.
Have you ever met anyone who's used one?
Yeah, if you go to a restaurant,
I'm joking. Obviously, people use it. What I mean is,
honestly, I think it's a COVID thing. So whenever I've been to a restaurant, because I've really tried to help out recently. When I've been to a restaurant recently, they've got QR codes on the table because they don't want people touching the menus. So I think I said to Simon before, I predict that people are going to get more familiar with them because they're being forced to use them at the moment.
I had a guy who tried to sell us one of those, Heather, to try and use it. And I said to him, well, can you show us how you can read it then? And he didn't have the app on his phone.
There isn't an app, Jeremy. You just use your camera.
He couldn't actually physically operate the thing. I thought QR codes are one of those digital red herrings that come along every 10 years.
So did I up until like 2 weeks ago.
Let's move on to the QR codes, please. I think analytics is the answer to your question, Simon. Analytics and analytics again and then analytics again. It's incredible that you've got 30% of agents that we try and talk to about that benchmarking tool I was mentioned to you earlier don't have analytics on their site. I don't know if that's the exact number. It's just based on when we ask them. It feels like 3 times out of 10 they say analytics. I've got no idea. You go and look at their website. I mean, Peter was talking about getting the Google the Facebook pics on your site. That's kind of the next level up. I mean, you start with 10, get Google Analytics on your website, and get the logins. The next one is they have Google Analytics on the website, and then you ask them for the login so you can have a look and help them out to sort of see where their traffic's coming from. And they go, I don't know, I've never looked at it. And you're thinking, how can you, yeah. So I just say, get analytics on your website, get the login to it, and set up a report so it emails you once a month with where your traffic's coming from. Real basic 101 stuff. And then from there, you can then go on into benchmarking, working out how you compare to other people, putting Facebook pixels on, doing hashing on your leads. So all the lead forms, we get them all, we hash them, we compare that to data in CRM to work out whether that sale resulted from this bit of marketing. But that's all second and third level. Let's get the basics right first.
And you're happy enough, Jeremy, that they're definitely "don't be evil" mantra is spot on. They're not gonna take it.
You maybe call me naive, but I liked when they announced they were going to throw away all personal data after a year, because what Google have understood is Google understand what you are doing right now. They understand so much about you. You've run 20, 30 searches today already. They know whether we're in the market for a car or insurance or a house move. They don't need to compile data over 20 years to know who they are. They know my kids' names. They know where I live. They know everything. You've got Android, you've got Chrome, you've got Google Analytics, you've got Gmail. They know when you breathe. They know your heart rate. They know hours you slept at night. And all those things are true. And so just, you have no privacy. Get over it. It's like, and what we depend on is we depend on the fact they're throwing the data away after a year. That's a quote, by the way. That's not me saying that. That's Scott McNeely from Sun Microsystems about 20 years ago said, you have no privacy. Get over it. His point was a serious one, which is, data, you're swimming in a lake of data. People know what's going on. It's about being protected by either GDPR or by companies voluntarily throwing the data away after a year like they're doing. I think Facebook's a much, much bigger threat data-wise than Google in terms of what it retains and what it tries to do with it.
I do like the idea that, people talk about right move, in these terms of, we've created Frankenstein, and then they pray for Facebook to ride in as the champion on the horse.
Google, and they get upset about having their website scraped by people who then go and build new search engines for them. And they sort of say, don't you dare crawl my data. And yet they invite Google in to come and crawl their data every day. It's
like a vampire into your house. But anyway, that's me just getting a bit fantasy there. By the way, Heather, your whole angle there about eating out just to help out. I've been helping out the food and restaurant trade for a little over 15 years now. So
I've really done my bit, I think, recently to help out.
Excellent. Sorry, Simon, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, off the back of what Jeremy said, single customer views, databases. Start with the customer. Actually, if the question's monitoring the success of campaigns, don't start by thinking about the campaign. Start with the customer. You've got your list of customers. Log every treatment that you send to those customers, whether it's direct mail, an email, or whatever, against them, and just notice where they respond. And eventually, yes, you'll have to spend time in the analytics and understand where the attribution goes to different channels. But, to save you time and heartache thinking about it from a campaign perspective, just start with the customer database.
Yeah, it's also true that if you talk to the spreadsheet hard enough, it'll give you whatever answer you want. So if you're trying to prove a campaign's ROI, you can prove it. There's no question about it. And it's all multi-touch, because it's all, as you said, there was a bit of direct mail that landed, that led them to Google, that led them to search for your brand name, like Gemma just said. So you can't untangle this stuff. No modern world can untangle it. Common sense.
The logic that I use in some of those cells on Excel represents the board in my my beautiful mind, and that's just to add up a basic sum. But anyway, you're quite right. I've made some glorious sheets off the back of that. Go on, Heather.
Just to add to that, I think Jeremy and Simon are right. It's very rare that you just get one touch point with one thing and that converts. I think usually it's going to be a mix of things. But I am a big believer that if you can't measure something, you can't improve something. So where you can measure it, everybody should be measuring it. And one of the things, and totally agree with Jeremy and Simon, it's usually a combination of things. But even still, so for example, with Spectre, you can track your ROI. So you see a list of properties that received one or more letters, and it shows you which letters they received before switching and instructing you. Now, that might have been a few letters, plus some Google ads, plus some brand recognition, plus some boards. You don't know. But what you do know is that you can A/B test that. So if you're a multi-brancher, for example, you can have certain letter content in one, a different letter content in another. And all things being equal, that's as best as you're going to get in terms of understanding what works and what doesn't. And what I find with our clients is that the really switched on ones are doing that all the time. And I'm not just saying this because Peter's on the call, but Peter is somebody who, regularly updates his letter content. And frankly, it's brilliant. He's always updating. It's always relevant. But you can constantly track your ROI, and that's what people should be doing. There is a saying, it was on a podcast that I listened to the other day, about it's not marketing if you're not measuring it. And I think there is an element of truth to that. People should be testing all the time.
Yeah, fantastic. And you were talking about, obviously, about being switched on as well. Most people choose to try and finish their show on a real high, but obviously it's a kerfuffle. So we're going to do it the other way around. We're going to end in a morose of negativity. So can we if you've got time, I know we've hit the hour now. Can you, any of you, talk about what are the biggest mistakes you've seen agents making across any medium? Basically, what are the things that get your goat, basically, in terms of? And Laurie, and I know obviously you do a bit of estate agency, real estate. You've got a wild card to talk about. What's the worst marketing you've seen anywhere? Who wants to expose the client? Who wants to ruin it? Go on, Gemma. Great. Go on.
I think there's three. I've sort of discussed it with our internal team, and there's three big things that we come across that are sort of mistakes that a lot of agents make. One of them is using the same messages and imagery time and time again across all your platforms without sort of tracking. I believe that's wasted money because, like we've talked about this whole sort of podcast, it's what people are doing at that time and what they're exposed to and what they're, where they are in their lives and if they're open to receiving certain messages. Choosing to pour all your marketing budget into one channel over another isn't a complete and broad-reaching campaign, because generally people are compelled to respond after being exposed to a multitude of omni-channel marketing messages, and sending the same thing over and over again, whether it be email or social or print. I think we talked about before about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that's not to say that that's the best that you can do. So I think you need to be continually testing and trialing and running sort of, even if it's like your main thing is pouring leads in, great. But are they leads that are being converted? If not, then why not? And can you run little sort of experiments on the side to test new data or to test new channels or to test new messages?
I'm really annoyed now, Jem. You've turned that round into positivity, which was meant to be done. But no, that's all fantastic points and well made, obviously, with the suggestions of how to avoid it as well. Katie, sorry, did you have something you want to say?
I mean, Gemma's covered a fair bit of it, but I think that one of the other things that agents and all people who are doing any kind of marketing have to bear in mind is actually having a clear call to action. Whether it's a direct mail campaign or whether it's an email campaign, if you've not made it clear in the space that you've got to communicate with the recipient why they should get in touch with you and how they should do it, then you've wasted your money, essentially. Yeah. So every good marketing campaign has to have a really compelling call to action. Which does link in with all the stuff that we've talked about already about why you should be establishing yourself as the person that particular vendor should get in touch with. And my one kind of side note, my personal bugbear is spelling mistakes. So if you don't proofread your marketing communications, then don't bother sending them.
You're full on in the grammar and spelling police, are you? Yeah. I mean, but the point is, Julian O'Dell is obviously one of the best, most fantastic trainers we've got in this industry. You can literally see the vein burst on his head when what we should be very aware of is that whether that's 10% or 20% of the public, you have lost them, that demographic if you started off, haven't you? So you do need to get, I think the biggest thing there, Kate, you're quite right, is getting somebody else to proofread your own stuff, isn't it? It's like a developer will never see mistakes in their own code. You find it very hard to read, because all I do is I just applaud myself when I'm reading what I've written. And also, just on what you said there, Katie, I think is very true. The only thing worse than confusing CTAs as well, call to actions, is having too many call to actions, isn't it? Because that's we thought, and I'm always, can we just talking to the marketing girls, can we just put one, and then you've got one up here, and it does resemble a Dan Brown book by the end of the newsletter.
Yeah, communication is to create a story, and at the end of the story, the recipient should know why they want to get in touch with you.
Yeah, perfect. More misery. Who's gonna? Anyone else? Anybody else? No one else. We'll go to Lorien first, then we come to Trevor.
But again, back to basics. Agree with everything all of you have said. Certainly, in my experience, the amount of letters from large companies where the phone numbers don't work, the QR codes don't work, the URLs don't work, the emails don't work. I don't need to say anymore.
You actually don't know. I raid constantly at websites that don't have a phone number just very easy to find there. If you could, so often that is the case, isn't it? You're searching in sort of the footer and everything else, just trying to dig out these things. Heather, over to you. Thanks, Lorien.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. It's following on from what everybody said, really. One of the things that I think estate agents are sort of expected to be at the moment is everything. You're meant to be a marketeer, you're meant to be a copywriter, you're meant to be a storyteller. And I would say, if you're going to invest in a marketing channel, whether it's digital, direct mail, and you're going to that expense of doing it, it might be, if you identify that perhaps copywriting is a weakness of yours, go and speak to a professional copywriter, because this is your brand. This is you getting yourself in front of these people, and you're paying money to do it. So I would say don't be afraid of seeking professional help where needed.
And that you might want to go to a website that specialises in providing that sort of A to Z of specialists, just maybe. So thank you. Go on, Simon. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's a simple thing, but make sure the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. We've talked a lot about
marketing talking to sales, or
partly, yes, but absolutely, I'm talking to everybody else, back office operations and everything. I mean, partly from a live chat perspective, you'd expect me to get that in somewhere. We are a support service to all of our clients. Well, they have all of their own internal teams, and if those guys who are customer facing don't know what communications are going out, then the customer refers to it, and they get blank responses, and that kills the entire campaign in a heartbeat.
You know how you have, and I think hopefully one solves the other, doesn't it? I was always a big fan of having everyone in the business included on the test send out. Just in terms of being informed, and then what Katie's point was, if sometimes they will be the people that spot the sales and grammar, the spelling and grammar mistakes as well, aren't they? At least they can't complain that they weren't copied in on it. And you do see that a lot, don't you? Genuinely, no one had an idea about the deal that's just been sent out on the back of it. Yeah, thank you, Simon. Only you, Jeremy. You just don't. You're just too positive, aren't you? That's your problem. You haven't covered it. Pardon?
I think we've covered it, haven't we? I think we've
You're just desperate to get off. After an hour and 10 minutes, he's submitted. Look, guys, absolutely fantastic. A lot of great feedback there. It didn't turn into the big scrap that I was hoping it was, but I think that's because you're also so clever with your answers and everything else. Gemma, Simon, Lorien, Heather, Jeremy, and Katie, thank you once again. Look forward to catching up with you soon. And thank you to everyone who's taken part today. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.